Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever, we talk about the process of growing your egg from start to finish. Today's show is brought to you by Goodside Skateboards, an independent skateboard company formed out of a love for skateboarding, along with the art and typographic design associated with skate subculture. Damn it, Ryan, that's a long sentence. Anyways, get awesome decks and t-shirts at www.goodsideskateboards.com. All right, I guess so. Without further ado, I'm Mike, he's Ryan, and this is Eggs.
This is eggs. This is eggs. This is eggs.
Get all the eggs. Get all the eggs.
Welcome to the show. Hey, it's Ryan here. Mike Borja Factor is in the house.
What's up? What's up?
We are back after coming off a fun show with DJ Faze last week.
Yeah, that was a good one.
This week we've got another fun interview for you. Actually, one I'm really looking forward to. The guy we've got on the show today is Chris Shill. Chris is a amazing creative director, art director. I've worked with him for a number of years at the ad agency and on other projects, things like that. Chris has got himself a skateboard company now, and we're pretty stoked to talk about it. So we'll get into a visit with Chris here in just a few minutes. But before we do, I want to start with a little bit of a recap. Mike just made his last trip to Seattle for the winter.
Oh yeah, I left on Thursday night and got there like 4 a.m. Friday morning. Slept for a little bit and got up and helped Jeff, the DJ Faze from last week. He's doing some remodeling on his house, and helped him do a dump run and do all sorts of fun stuff. And you know how he's having problems getting contractors lined up and everything.
Right.
Well, he did hardwood floors the week before or the day before, and then he had to move all his furniture so they could put carpet down. And over the weekend or whatever, they were going to do it on Saturday or Sunday or something. And we spent the day moving everything, got everything lined up, checked in with the contractor. We'll be here 100%, no problem. One of the contractor's wives had a baby that morning. So we did all that work, and he still had to wait. But
that's awesome.
Did that. That night I played at the Ballroom, which is an awesome venue I play at pretty much every time I'm in Seattle, but it was Halloween weekend, so we were packed to the gills by midnight, line around the block, just an awesome, fun event. Next day I was up in Anacortes, played at the Brown Lantern, and it was a weird night. It was like normally it's just people my age, 35 younger kind of thing. We had a bunch of like 50, 60-year-olds there for Halloween, dressed up thinking that they're going to...
That's because you were you're playing music, and when you play...
No, what it was, there was a local band playing next door, and the local band drew that demographic.
So all the Cougars came out to play.
Yep, and had some dude...
Sugar daddies.
One dude was like complaining to the bartender the whole time, dude, can you tell him to play something different?
Can we get some Warrant on?
Yeah, exactly. And the bartender came up, he's like, dude, you're doing great. This is just appearances only. Keep doing whatever the hell you want. Fuck that guy. And it was great. So it was a fun night. The following day was the Seahawks game.
What a game.
Wasn't that a good game?
Best of the season so far.
Yeah, I actually was playing at a new venue that's literally right next door to the stadium. So the stadium's, where they're playing the game, CenturyLink. And then right across the street or a block down is this new venue called Stadium, but it's spelled with an X. So it's like X Stadium.
I think that's a stretch, trying to get it to say Stadium. We'll talk to Chris about that. He's a designer guy too. He's not going to buy that.
I'll pull the logo up and show it to you.
Yeah, no way.
But it's a cool venue. They have huge TVs. They set up, how like in the NBA games they have the jumbotrons in the center of the...
Yeah.
He set up like 70-inch TVs in the center, 4 around that have nothing but the game on. During the commercials, we play music instead of listening to like Cialis commercials. You know, we play good music.
I guess. Who wouldn't rather hear Cialis ads?
Halftime we played, and then since it was such a cool like comeback, like I thought they were going to lose because they scored with like 30 seconds left, got the ball back, came down and scored towards the end. It turned into a party afterwards. Everyone leaving the stadium came in and had a good time. Weird little thing though. Since we were so close to the stadium, do you remember Super Bowl like 5 years ago when Janet Jackson did the halftime show and the nip slip came out?
Of course.
That's when the 30-second delay came into effect.
I could be wrong, but I think that's like 10 years ago now.
It probably is.
I think we're much older than you think.
I guess.
So although JT's coming back this year, Timberlake's doing
nice.
nice
For
the first time since the nip slip.
Oh, as long as she's not part of it, it's good.
Yeah, apparently.
Anyways, there's a 30-second delay in the broadcast now. So we had the security guards outside the venue gave us a walkie-talkie, and so they could hear the cheers in the stadium before it actually aired. So they're like, okay, something just happened, get ready with the lights. Because whenever they would score, we would play like we'd turn the lights on blue and green, and we'd shoot some CO2 cannons and stuff off and just make a big deal out of it.
Oh, nice.
So we were prepped, ready to go because of the 30-second delay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, it was an awesome trip.
And that's it for this year?
Maybe. Pending one more trip in December, but we're not 100% on that right now.
I gotcha.
But anyways, I guess without further ado,
let's go ahead and get into this chat with our buddy Chris. He's sitting here on the side being talked around instead of talked to. Yep. So let's bring him in. We got owner, founder, operator, and all around good dude from Goodside Skateboards and beyond, Chris Shill.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Welcome to the show, Chris. Stoked to have you.
Go and pull that up just a little bit closer to you there.
There
you go.
Yeah, so as I sort of non-eloquently mentioned at the top of the show, Chris and I worked together for a long time. Actually, Chris was my boss for a while back in the olden times.
Oh, I see how it is.
Yeah. Chris, myself, and a guy named Spencer, who may one day make an appearance on this show too, because he's an interesting cat. Used to share an office here at Thomas Arts back in the day, and we kind of hit it off as buddies back then, and we've always sort of stayed close. And as I've continued to do work for Thomas Arts, I hang around every now and then and hit up Chris. And during this year in 2017, he started Goodside Skateboard. And I'm super jealous. I wish I had started a skate company first because it's
you got to know how to skate first. I think
no, you don't. I don't think so. I mean, I could be a poser. I could pull it off. So, but yeah, tell us about Goodside and getting started in skate and what how we got here. As we've talked about off the air. Sort of one of the underlying themes of this show of eggs is this idea of taking your egg, your concept from coop to table. So in this case, we've got Goodside Skateboard, could be your egg. But how did we even get it to the coop before you start talking about how to get it to the table?
Oh, okay. So interesting. If I go back to, I think it was my 8th grade year, I was interested in skateboarding, and I remember even before that, seeing this little orange skateboard that my dad brought home.
Now, did it have the raised edges on both sides, or was it one of those 80s ones that just had the kick on the end?
I think it had a kick on the end, and it's plastic with these little metal wheels. And I remember looking at that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, dude, I know you can do some cool stuff with that. And so I took it out, and I wasn't doing anything cool with it. And back then, there's no YouTube, there's just nothing out
Tony
there
Hawk
to
was
get.
Still in his infancy.
Yeah,
there wasn't. Tony Hawk was barely Tony Hawk.
Yeah. The only way you knew how to do that kind of stuff was either being kind of a child prodigy skateboarder, like Rodney Mullins that just figures this stuff out, or you have to hang with people. And I didn't have a whole lot of that. And so fast forward a little bit more, and skateboarding gets a little bit more popular. I'm in, I think, ninth grade now. and they're making kind of those fatter skateboard cruiser boards that are really
Yeah,
popular.
one of those when I was a kid. I had a pink one.
Oh,
That
yeah.
had a dragon on it.
Says
But it
a
was
lot, Ryan.
I don't know what it's called. Maybe Chris knows in the skater vernacular, but it was sort of like pointy or kind of a point at the one end, and then kind of almost like a rocket or something. And it was kind of shaped like that. It was a big fat board with it had like a plastic brake under the back flipper.
And,
Oh, I
and
remember
two
those.
sides,
Yeah.
plastic sides on the
little,
side.
little grind rails or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sweet.
Yeah. So I got one of those, and I remember looking at the design and being an artist. I just thought, you know what, coolest thing ever would be able to design skateboard decks. So I got out some pen and paper and started designing this company, and I think I called it CC&S. I just took my full name. It's Christopher Charles Shill. So I'm like, CC&S. I'm like, I'm not going to tell anybody Charles is in there because it didn't
Takes the
sound
cred
cool.
down.
Yeah, but I'm like, CC&S, and drew these skull graphics and all this kind of stuff, and thought, I got to figure out how to get this printed on some boards, and never could kind of figure it out. So it just went into a shoebox. Well, years later, I remained into art. I learned how to paint. I went to art school. I've done a lot of things, but this year it was interesting. A couple of years ago, my wife got breast cancer, and we went through a really.
Oh man, I'm sorry. That's rough.
Yeah, it's sad when those kinds of things happen. But the cool thing about it is you go through something like that, and it kind of changes your life a little bit. And sometimes you reassess.
Yeah. Priorities. What's
priorities
important in
and
life.
things like that. And so we got Chrissy through her treatment. It was really hard on the whole family, and it really made me stop and think about where I was in life. I'm really happy. I have this awesome job. I have an awesome family, awesome friends. But there were some things that I could remember all along the way in my 20s, in my 30s, and now I'm in my 40s, and just thinking, I always wanted to get back into skateboarding. And I think going through something like cancer, you just think, you know what? Stop putting things off, because you just never know.
Literally could all go away.
Yeah, it could be gone. So just stop saying, hey, one of these days I'm going to do something. So I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? My birthday's coming up. I'm going to get a skateboard, and I'm just going to
She's
start
looking at you like,
skateboarding.
what are you doing?
It's like
Yeah. No,
Christopher Charles. How old are you?
No, the crazy thing is she's of the same thinking. She's out running now and doing all the things. She ran a marathon a week before she was diagnosed with cancer. So she was active, and so she's always been supportive. She loves skateboarding, and she just said, please don't get hurt. And so,
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're anything like me, but things hurt worse now. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
have real incentive not to
Yeah,
fall.
when you're 14 and you fall, it's like you can mend a little bit. You might have a
Yeah.
scuffed elbow, but
Yeah, no, when you do a header trying to ollie someplace or something.
yeah. No, that's the difference is you get up from a hard fall and you say, I'm going to feel that probably forever. and you keep going. So got this skateboard. I was really excited about it. I was taking it out and relearning balance and trying to remember a lot of the stuff that I had learned. And then interestingly, one day I was sitting in church of all places and I had this, I'm kind of ADD. I'm going to admit that.
That's right. You're among friends.
Most creative people are. And so I can hyper focus on a few things there. And then I feel like, okay, I've done my job. I'm going to let my mind wander a little bit. And I had this thought of, you know what, skateboard company would be awesome. And I love to design. I love to draw. I love to do all that kind of stuff. And I thought, a skateboard deck is, in my mind, one of the best mediums you have. There are just really
you can do anything on it. There's no limitation.
No, there's no limitation.
Anything you want, you can put on a deck, really.
Yep. You can put whatever you want. And I just thought absolute creative freedom there. And I would be having a blast. And so it's weird. I started picturing this logo in my head. It almost just kind of started designing itself. And I remember just thinking, man, is this?
Well, you were at church. Maybe it's divine intervention.
What? Well, I was trying. I'm like, is this a combination of divine intervention or
Let me guess,
ADD?
it's on the back of a program. Your original logo is on the back of a program, right?
So right now I'm saying this is a mix of divine intervention and ADD. So we'll just kind of go with that. But and you know, ironically, the logo was this G with devil horns and a tail is what appeared into my mind, and I sketched it out and brought it home and showed my wife, and I said, I had this idea. I think I want to start a skateboard company, and here's the logo. And she looked at it and she's like, oh, that's so cool. I think you should do that.
To be honest with you, I really do like the logo. It's
super cool.
Really
thanks.
nice.
Yeah, for anybody who's been watching our Instagram, we've been showing their brand a little bit of love lately. And so you can see some of his work on there. And also we'll give you websites and everything at the end, but you got to check it out. Chris is a super talented designer to boot. So
why wait to the end?
Cool.
Goodsideskateboards.com. Pull it up while you're listening right now.
Yeah. Perfect. So, but yeah, really do jump on and check it out because it's, I mean, you're not going to find better design stuff outside of maybe like a 84 Santa Cruz. So, but outside of that.
Oh man, you're too kind.
So, tell me about the process from, you know, coming up with the logo at church to actually, okay, now I need to print this on decks, finding a supplier, finding someone to do the printing. I mean, that can't be that easy.
No, but the crazy thing was how easy it all fell into place. But it took a lot of work. And first off, you know, after I got up, you know, I looked at the logo was to kind of get a typographic lock up with it, come up with a name. We chose Goodside. We knew we wanted to do the Devil G, and I also knew there was a risk involved with doing this. This, you know, you're mixing dualities, which I actually really love. I love this concept of kind of good and evil put together, existing in the same
skating
mark.
in general has always been kind of like, you know, a punk thing, like a you know, the guys that are like on the outside or whatever, or skaters, you know, they're not the norm. So it's kind of like natural for skateboarding, I think, you know, like, or that demographic of people. Yeah,
it seemed to really work well, but then a lot of times you know, a lot of skateboarders I've known, people that have been into that, you sit them down, talk to them, they're
awesome
cool, they're
people.
cool dudes.
Yeah, they're just.
And they've got some great
people.
stories, you know? And so it's just, you know, it was like, I like this idea of, you know, all of us have a little bit of a diabolical nature to us. It's just part of who we are.
Jumping the fence to go find the perfect pipe or something to skate.
And sometimes for a skater, they need to go, you know, skate in somebody's dried up swimming pool. Yeah. I mean, they're not trying to be bad, but it's just that idea of we all have a little bit in us, and you know, whatever you do, just, you know, use it for good, use things for positive. But and so that's kind of what it was, but I also thought it'd be fun to let people interpret it, because, you know, you could have some people look at it and say, oh yeah, man, that's really that's sending the wrong message to our kids. And then others would be, oh, that's awesome. I love it. And it kind of, we talked about this a little bit. It reminded me of the early 80s, you know, with all the metal bands and all accused of being in league with Lucifer, and everybody wanted you to attend some kind of meeting where they're going to play the records backwards and tell you what everything said. And I remember just thinking, wow, what is going on here? And
it's just music.
Yeah, it's just and ultimately what we found out is that it was all nonsense.
Yeah.
It was all nonsense. There wasn't any of that stuff really going on. You can pretty much play anything backwards and
it's going to sound weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Pull some messages out there, but But what that really made me think of as a kid is some of this stuff that is really interesting, and how powerful it can be in getting ideas out there and in the market, where you throw these dualities out there and see how people respond to them. And so it was just it felt like a fun way to take the brand. So next was, you get the logo, and then it's like, okay, it was really interesting. I just carried a laptop with me around all the time. I'm watching television, I'm on this laptop, and I'm just designing skateboards like crazy. It just seemed like I had just this flood of ideas coming in. And my wife was loving it too. She's like, oh, that's so cool. And I had 70 skateboard designs that I had done, and they just kept coming. And occasionally she'd look at one and say, oh, it's a little too edgy. I don't think you ought to do that one. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. And that one's not edgy enough. And so, but I was having a blast with it. But then it's like, okay, let's apply for registration. So we went through the federal registration
Did you trademark
system.
it?
I did trademark it, and it's currently under review right now. And so it's just,
How hard was that process? I've thought about doing that, and it's not cheap, is it?
It's about $300 to do it, and you just and part of it, you're at the risk of getting the right reviewer, because they have some really good reviewers there that work for the government, and then you have others that aren't so good, and so it's a little bit of a roll of the dice.
Did you bring in attorneys or anybody help you with that, or did you just figure it out on your own?
I actually have had an attorney that I've used to file a second. I'm not exactly sure what you call it, but it went through the first round, and then I retained an attorney to file the second round with the application.
Gotcha.
Did they give you some feedback as what you need to change this in order for it to go through kind of thing? Or was it like...
Yeah, well, interesting. The lawyer that he talked to, he said, you know what, this there's no reason why this should not go through at all. This is great. There's no conflict of interest anywhere out there, and so it's still an ongoing process, but it's still a mark that we plan on using. There really isn't any one out there that legally
would compete with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's a good point to talk about, though. Like, as we're talking about building businesses and things like that, is the importance of actually bringing in a lawyer. Mm-hmm. Like you would any profession. You go to a dentist to fix your teeth or whatever. If you want to file legal documents, you ought to use an attorney. And I know it feels like for a lot of people, especially young startups or people just trying to do things on their own, it feels kind of expensive, or like, is it worth it? Because it's a little bit intangible. And of course, there are services online like LegalZoom and other places like that where you can go and fill out paperwork and things like that. But I think working with a lawyer, especially in a space like this where you're dealing with creative and copyright and trademark and all that stuff.
I would say for trademark over like an LLC or something like that, because LLC, I literally just
you
went
can file an LLC without, but more to do with this stuff, copyright, trademark, that sort of thing. I think it's good just in terms of being able to avoid pitfalls, because you might, maybe you use the wrong descriptive word or something like that an attorney might pick up on and say, hey man, that word never flies. Don't try and use that word, and you just don't have that kind of expertise, off Google or whatever. So I think that's good advice.
So you had 70 designs, like you were kind of trying to figure out which ones you wanted to use to actually print, because I'm sure it's not cheap to do a batch of decks.
No, and that's where it started. I guess reality started hitting, because I found a manufacturer and I wanted to print here locally or somewhere close. It made me a little bit nervous to take an operation right over to China. Yeah. Especially with a brand that is just starting out. The turnaround times would be just, weeks and weeks, well, possibly months to get things. And so
here, by the way, is Salt Lake City.
Yeah. And so I found a manufacturer, and they manufacture for a lot of different brands. They don't let anybody know who they manufacture with, because they don't want to they keep that private, which is, a professional thing to do. But after researching, I realized, these guys are good, and they print. They can take everything from different sized decks. They can do steep, mellow.
As far as the
As far as
amount of curvature on the
curvature, popsicle. They'll even do custom sized decks, and they can even do those sweet cruiser decks that we were talking about just a minute ago. With and I may do
longboards.
A sweet cruiser deck. Yeah, but longboards I probably won't get into right now because it seems like right now the market, unless you're Santa Cruz, a lot of companies either do one or the other. They'll do longboards or they'll just do skate decks. And so
I'm
my
sure
focus is
longboards
skateboards.
are an entirely different beast. They make them out of like bamboo, right? And they're kind of flexible, so you can,
Yeah, it's a little bit different game. We actually used to know the guys that ran Sector 9 longboards, and that was all they did was longboards.
Yeah, and the cruise, you go out and you cruise with them, and it's kind of it's interesting. I was on this trail by our house riding my skate deck, and along comes this skateboard, and I thought, oh man, they must have that thing motorized, but they didn't. It was just a longboard,
and he was hauling,
and it was just hauling, and it was because it's a longboard. It was really, they weren't working as hard as I was, but for me, I was just out, pushing and getting balance and just getting more familiar with the board and seeing how they hold up. And so it was, I really like the skate decks where, it's more about tricks and, riding bowls and things like that. It's lots of fun. And so as I looked into manufacturing these things, you start looking at what you need to do to make them cost effective. And
is that quantity versus quality? Like
it is totally, it's all about quantity. And so I thought, okay, what I figured it down to is anything 25 is the sweet spot for manufacturing boards as far as getting graphics printed, the board pricing, and everything and shipped to you. And then it just keeps getting better as you go up. And so start with 25 or 50, 100, you get better price margins. But I thought, well, you know what? I could start at 25 and order. Maybe I would do a series of 6 to 8 boards. And I'd start out and I'd kind of call it the 36 series, which again, the 36 series, nobody would ever pick up on this, but since we kind of had that duality, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do.
Let me guess. It just hit on me. Is it 3 6s? Is that what it is? Good.
36. Well, you're getting close. You've got so if it's 36.
I was going to ask you what it meant anyway.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
But I wanted to take the guess first in case I was right.
Okay. Well, the 6 does come from 666. So I had to take an evil number, and then I had to combine it with the 3, which is considered a godly number because it represents the Trinitary, the Godhead. So
I was going to say, well, it's at least half as bad as 6, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, and then it's crazy how they you add them up, subtract them, and then
sounds like we got an episode of Da Vinci Code coming out or something.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I love that though. And like we mentioned before, go to goodsideskateboards.com to check out the boards. But I know that there's like messaging in a lot of these. And so this first line, it looks like maybe 9, 10, 11 boards. Are all of these falling under that 36 series? Or is it just that top group there?
The top group, 9? Yeah, the top group falls under those. And the thought was, as a designer, just really wanted to do something that was conceptual, where you take these ideas and create these graphics that are reflective of skateboard culture and but assign meaning to them. So there's kind of cleverness there and color and typography and some of the things that you don't always see.
Yeah, well, and I have to say, the first time I saw these boards, the first thing was I was completely taken back by the quality of them. And it's funny because, I mean, I know Chris, and I know that he wouldn't put out anything that was sort of substandard anyway. So, I mean, I knew they were going to be good, but like, I mean, these are like every bit as good as any deck you've ever seen anywhere. I mean, they're full blown professional quality. And like Chris was saying, that, you know, the manufacturer, you know, builds for, you know, however many other brands. And I mean, they're just amazing. They're awesome. The colors are super vibrant, super bright, and the designs are super cool.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, not to kiss your ass too much, but actually,
but yeah, they are 7-ply Canadian maple, cold pressed instead of hot pressed, which cold pressing makes a stronger deck because the fibers aren't
stretched
they're not exposed to heat that will, you know, weaken the fibers. It's a longer process to cold press them. So this outfit that I found really, you know, does an awesome job.
Yeah, they really do make a beautiful quality board. Because, you know, when I first heard, you know, like I said, I know Chris, I knew it wasn't going to be bad. But, you know, like when somebody comes to you and says, hey, man, I'm going to start a skate company, you know, you think, okay, he's buying blank decks, and he's putting stickers on them or whatever, you know.
So a while ago, actually, I'll go ahead and say it. Pennywise, we went to their show, remember? And we at the show, they're selling, they're selling skate decks. And we ended up, I interviewed him for a radio station that I was working for at the time. And Ryan kind of segued that into getting some signed decks, the skateboard decks that were Pennywise, whatever. And we get back to the house, and they're plastic decks, right?
They're like they're a wooden deck with like a red enamel on them, but they're are
literally a sticker.
Somebody else's, they're somebody else's red board.
So they bought them bulk, and they just put a Pennywise sticker
on it.
Put a little vinyl decal. And you know, what were they selling for, like $30-$40?
Yeah, I mean, they're cool looking when you're sitting at the venue or whatever, but as soon as you get it home, it's just a vinyl decal on somebody's board,
someone's random board. So I mean, like, there is that level, and then there's Chris's level. You know,
and so, but like, you know, and when you get a chance to look at the website, you'll see this. But I mean, the Goodside stuff is like every bit as good as any other brand out there. And you know, the look of everything is super pro. And you know, actually, you know, I had mentioned on an earlier episode that I was thinking about getting back into the clothing business, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't Goodside that sort of started me down that path.
He's getting jealous.
Well, I am. And so, like, you know, as a guy that you know, works in and around ad agencies and runs one of his own, I mean, like, you know, not every bit of work you do is the sexiest work. You know, I mean, it's not always super fun. It's not always the coolest thing, you know, when you're doing health insurance and, you know, banner ads or whatever. And Goodside, for me, represents this creative outlet where you can just go nuts and have fun. And that's what Restless used to be for me. And so, and it's since gone away. But after seeing what Shill's doing, it's giving me hope that there's something fun out in the future on the other side.
Yeah.
So
it's such a great creative outlet. It's been so fun.
Typography based. Is that kind of your thing? Is typography?
Yeah, I think that's one of the elements of being a designer. You really focus on type and what looks good and what doesn't look good, and the fact that type it communicates so much. And what's so cool in skate culture is you have, you know, a lot of these skaters that are into graffiti, and that's a type form all in itself. And so,
were you into graffiti as a kid?
You know, I actually wasn't into graffiti as a kid. It's it wasn't that prevalent at the time, but it's interesting. I used to paint a lot of trains that I would sell in galleries. And so I would come across, as I was photographing work, just these beautiful letter forms. And I was really taken by how it's like these guys are getting in fast.
Yeah, in and out
fast. And they're producing some really cool, intricate things. You know, not all graffiti is created equal. You've got, you know, varying levels of aptitude, but you
got the random guy that just wants his tag on a train. It doesn't have any talent. And then you got the guy that's got stencils, got everything kind of pre-planned, comes in. Yeah. And that to me...
and it's funny. So, like, you know, and we can get a little bit more into Shill's past because, I mean, all this discussion about duality and stuff like that, I think it's important to understand where Shill comes from. But it's funny because one component of his past, and it's mind blowing to me that he wasn't into graffiti culture at all, because he was into b-boy culture and he was into
really?
breakdancing.
That's
And
okay.
and some of that stuff. You ought to see this guy, do a nice 360 backspin. I've seen him, break his elbow doing one, here in the office.
That's
But he was sort of into some of that bit of of the culture back in the day, and that is sort of tied to graffiti and hip hop and all this stuff. Sort of all meet there. You're talking about the Holy Trinity. It's graffiti, breakdancing, and hip hop. And so it's kind of funny because Chris has kind of this punk rock background, and he was a bit of a punker guy back when in his youth, and he wasn't always the statesman that he is today. But anyway, but I think it's important to understand that, because Chris is among one of the kindest people I know, real gentle guy, real positive attitude and all that stuff. But there was this other side too, and so for me, the Goodside stuff really, sort of, I guess, put a point on sort of what I know about Chris's past, because it, I think, is a good representation of sort of both sides of that coin, or that duality that he was talking about earlier.
So you and I are both from Pocatello.
Yeah, the mean streets of Pocatello.
I know it's horrible, but Pocatello is like a railroad hub. A lot of trains coming in and out. And one thing that I really wanted to do at one point in time was I wanted to just, capture all the graffiti that's coming in on the railroad trains, because you see good and bad, and there's a lot of just amazing work that you just see just randomly as you're driving to work during the day. And I thought it would be cool to start a website called like trainart.com and just focus on the graffiti part of it. And, as we were saying earlier, it's just this. It's a whole subculture. It's kind of like skateboarding. They kind of have their own thing. Skateboarding has its own thing. B-boys have their own thing. DJs have their own thing. I love the creativity aspect of it. And lots of people look at graffiti as like, wow, how dare they? It's just it's ruining the downtown and and I love it. It's one of those things that you can express yourself. Too bad it's on someone else's property. Too bad but like downtown Pocatello, they have this tunnel that goes underneath the trains, and there's a guy that owns a skate shop actually in downtown Pocatello and sells snowboards, skateboards, all sorts of stuff. He went to the city council and started talking to him because people were tagging the tunnel going underneath it's Center Street, goes underneath there. People were just tagging it randomly, and he got permission to go in and actually have professional guys come in and take a section of it, do their canvas, and do whatever they want. And I think it's cool that you look at like the Biggie graffiti, the Notorious B.I.G. one that they had to paint over it recently, just like 6 months ago. Do you know the one I'm talking about? It was a big deal because it's a iconic piece of
art.
It's art, and the landlord wanted it painted over because it was causing a lot of problems with stuff or whatever. So they went and painted over it. But I guess what I'm getting at is like, if they can take the time and do a really nice piece of art, most of the gangster and the stuff, the bad stuff that's affiliated with graffiti, most of those guys won't tag over the art because they appreciate it. And I just think it's demonized when really it's an outlet. It's a good thing, and if they can address it correctly, I think graffiti's. I love it. It's one of my.
Well, and that was one of the things. Like when I was younger, I used to go hang out in the hump yards, they call them, where they would drop off the trains and change them out. And I would do a lot of photography and stuff back then too. I'd go in there and take pictures and everything, and and I would sort of take those photos and then go back to my sketchbook and start to model that stuff out. So I do a lot of graffiti writing, and not as much anymore, not like I used to. But one funny story, and it just sort of ties Salt Lake and Idaho and all this culture together. So I used to come down here every now and then, and there was a sleazy magazine shop somewhere downtown, and I used to go over there because they had all the graffiti magazines. It was like the one spot you could get them, and I found this book that was it was just color photocopies, like stapled together. It was from this group, AOD, Army of Dogs, which is a graffiti crew. And they would publish this little book of photocopies that just had all their, pictures, framed up in there. And they just, published this magazine. I don't know however many they ever did, but I came across one. But one of the guys I used to follow around was this dude, Ego. And Ego was, I thought a really talented artist. And I was always looking at his work and sort of modeling his letter forms and stuff like that. And he, so fast forward maybe 20 years, I was hanging out in Pocatello with a friend of mine whose brother owned a tattoo shop, and they were bringing in this guy, a DJ or a tattoo artist from Seattle, a guy named Ego. So I started talking to him. I was like, Ego, that's kind of it could be a common nickname, but it's not one you hear all the time. And I was like, do you know anything about this guy? Where's he from? What's he do? And, that my friend didn't really know anything. So he comes down and he's doing a guest spot in this tattoo shop in Pocatello. It was Jesse Senna's brother's shop.
Okay.
And this guy Ego came down and he was doing some tattooing. And one night my friend Jesse was getting a tattoo done by this guy. And I came in and I started talking to him and I was like, hey, your name's really familiar to me. Did you ever, were you ever in this graffiti stuff? And he was like, oh, yeah, of course. And it turns out it was the same guy. So I went back home to my mom's house and I was able to find that old magazine and bring it down and show him it. And his jaw hit the ground when he saw that. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe anybody had it. So, but it just sort of ties together this whole, that sort of deep subculture that exists in graffiti. There's actually a really cool shop here in Salt Lake that has managed to survive over the years. And they're called Uprock. And, it's like a great, graffiti supply shop and stuff, but they have all the b-boy stuff, all the DJ stuff, all the graffiti stuff. And it's, I don't know, for me, it was a really cool part of growing up. And so, but it's funny how all these little pieces kind of come together. And I think that's what Chris is talking about with the skate decks and sort of, the hidden imagery and things like that, or the message behind some of these decks, and sort of, speaking to the skating subculture.
So I noticed the one on the top has that black triangle on it, and that's been kind of, I'm like, what is that?
That's our Series 36.
Oh, is that? Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
I didn't see the red.
I know you guys can't see this, but there's on the number 36 series of boards, he's got a little diamond on it, and that's what Mike's talking about.
Yeah, and that one is an example too of using typography and art and kind of like this concept behind a deck. And a little bit about this one, it's this was fun because when I created the logo, the G stands as is. I mean, it's the logo, and then I've got a sans serif font that's the core logo. But the nice thing I've allowed myself the flexibility to do, and Fossil does this beautifully with their brand, is to take the name Goodside and put it in whatever font within the design of the board that I need, while keeping the Devil G. Yeah,
you can keep that separate, but also make the font that you're working with match the artwork. That's cool.
Exactly. And so I got these two little demons that are taking down a no skateboarding sign, and so I was able to take the Goodside type and make it reflective of that area. It looks a little bit, maybe even a little Transylvania-ish, but just a little bit diabolical. And then we've got some dot pattern in there, so there's a little nod to pop art in there.
Oh, I just noticed that.
And and then the one devil is knee and the other one the butt. And so I have a friend who really, I call it I think diabolical duo, and he said that was a mistake. He's like, that guy's giving him a corn dog, so this needs to be called the unholy corn dog. But,
yeah, so for people who can't see this is one of Chris's skate decks that we're describing. It's called Diabolical Duo, and you can pull it up on their website, GoodsideSkateboards.com. But a lot of his artwork is really interesting. Can you talk about at all? What's the meaning behind this X-ray dude?
Okay, yeah, this was an interesting one. I had this thought of these X-ray glasses. I always loved those, and learned a lot about the Boy Scouts of America when I was
this used to be in the back of the magazine.
Yeah, back in the magazine, I learned a lot about misleading advertising from what's supposed to be one of the most honorable organizations in the world. But
as an Eagle Scout, I can attest to this.
yeah. Well, because I would get Boys Life, and then I would, read all the cool things, Scouts in Action. Then I'd turn to the back, and it was just filled with misleading ads about.
Dude, I always wanted the hover car.
Yeah,
Always.
hover car.
Well, I remember they used to have this kit where you could build a boat out of plywood, and they'd send you the blueprints or whatever to do this. And that'd be so cool. I want to go build a boat. Just all those weird things that I never
monkeys.
I never thought of the misleading advertising part of it because I wasn't.
Well, I was so jacked to get one.
I wanted it to be true. I wanted to be able to see through bones and skin with the X-ray glasses, or the Charles Atlas body in 7 days, or the throw your voice.
As a 12-year-old, I wasn't really.
It was crazy, and so, but I always loved the looks of those X-ray glasses, and so I had this idea. I was coming home. We were coming home from church, and I had a suit and tie on, and I told my wife, I'm like, hey, snap a quick picture of me. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I've got this idea. And so it became the soulless suit board. And really the concept was, this guy represents kind of corporate America. And
I love it.
He's got these, but his head's a skull, and he's got these X-ray glasses that are swirling around, and it's almost like he's dazed, and he's soulless. He's kind of sold out, and he's dead. And I did that one just because I've talked to a lot of people who have felt like that as they've gotten into corporate America. Not everybody feels like that, but some that got into it maybe for reasons that were more just financially focused and not their passion.
Yeah, chasing money, not happiness.
Yeah, they end up being the soulless suit. And so I thought, that's I kind of like that. And it's interesting because, most people won't draw that out of it. My son, Gavin, he's like, that's the coolest skateboard. I want that because there's a skeleton on it. And
not realizing the hidden meaning behind it.
Well, it's fun, though. I think that, that's sort of one of those things that takes, one of your skate decks from being just a skate deck to being art, really is that you've put this extra thought into that stuff. And like good art, most people are going to assign whatever meaning they've got to it. They're going to read it their own way and things like that. But for example, I bought one from Chris. It's it's called Graffiti Color, and basically it's a very pop artish. It's got the dot pattern, and it's got, for people who are familiar with printing, it has a sort of misregistered four color printing.
You got the blue lines on it.
So it's got a spray paint can on the bottom, sort of the nod to the graffiti and the street culture, and then it's printed in CMYK, which is 4-color printing, but it's misaligned, so it makes this a really cool design. And I bought it for me. I bought it as art. Like, I bought it to hang on a wall, mostly because I know that if I go out and skate on it, I'll kill myself. But I bought it mostly as art because I thought it was really cool design, and working in advertising and doing a lot of print work in my life. For me, it was sort of a cool design. It sort of crossed a lot of those, or checked a lot of those boxes for me, where it was printing, it's graffiti, it's skate culture, it's all those things in one. So, I don't know if your message is deeper than that, in this particular board, but that's what I took out of it.
Yeah, that's pretty right on what I was thinking. And I love the fact that you bought it as art, because there's been several people that have bought boards, and they're just like, I'm just going to hang this up on the wall. And I think, that's awesome. That's
just the fact that they recognize the talent.
Yeah, I'm like, that's great. I've had a couple of people ask me to sign them, and it's kind of weird just because I'm like,
what?
I'd love to sign it for you. And it's really cool that somebody would want me to sign it, but
it's awesome.
I don't want
to now I got to
come
bring
across
my back and have you sign it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to sign it.
I didn't know that was on the table.
Yeah, it totally is. But I'm
got
just
a Chris
like,
Shill original. In my
I want to
house.
tell him, dude, just so you know, I'm not that important, but hey, I'll sign it for you. I'm happy to.
Well, it's cool. And we were talking about this a little bit at the beginning of the show, but I mean, skate decks, for Chris are working out to be a creative outlet. There are all these things, but it's such an awesome medium for art. Like, I mean, some people paint on canvases, others draw on sketchbooks or whatever, but the skate deck itself is such a cool place to put art that, for me, it was like, I mean, that was the first thing I thought of. I didn't even think about messing it up with trucks or grinding the bottom off it. My thought was, get this thing on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any that sell better than the others? Have you?
Yes. The one that we were just talking about that Ryan bought, I have one left. And then the mustard gas board, people love that one.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you'll check it out at the website, but it's sort of got like World War II era sort of silhouette of a atom bomb or of a hydrogen bomb, and it's super cool.
So have you had any like printing issues, or like do they send you a proof, or how does that work with a deck? Because with a t-shirt you can kind of, if you do a short run, they can look at it. With a deck, I'm sure you have to get the whole 25 batch at once.
Yeah, they send them all at once, and so they just send me online a digital proof. I take a look at it. It's going to be more for placement. Do we have your artwork right? And if it looks good, I say, yeah, it's good to go. And then they'll produce them. They'll send them down. They make sure that, there are a few things that go into it where you have to specify if you want a steep concave, a mellow concave, and then they'll also print a color veneer on top, or they won't do any colors at all. And so once you get those worked out, you upload them, and then you just wait. It's like waiting for Christmas.
And then finally shows up.
Those things come, and yeah. But it's been a really fun thing too, because I've met so many neighbors that I've been getting out and skating with now, and they're like, "Man, I've been wanting to do this for years." And even in the office, you'll hear us screwing around downstairs sometimes. When we have a downtime, we'll have, we have a couple people here that are really good skateboarders, and a few that want to try, and so you see people trying to learn to ollie, and
that's the one thing I could do. I tried to get the kickflip down. I could never land it.
I missed this one, but I have my office mate Spencer. He avid vinyl collector. There's vinyl all over the office, and he tried an ollie. It didn't work out, and he fell on top of part of his vinyl collection, and I felt kind of bad, but
sorry.
Yeah,
that's all right. As long as it was some of that like Brazilian parade music he's got, I mean, there's a lot of good in there, but there's a lot of questionable picks. So
yeah, I would agree.
As long as he fell on a soft pile of that kind of stuff, then I don't feel so bad for
That's
him.
right.
So let's talk a little bit about, all right, so we've got the inspiration of the brand. We understand that. We've got through production. Now you have a bunch of skate decks. What are you doing to get rid of them?
Part of it,
I'm talking on a podcast.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but like, I mean, are you trying to get into skate shops? Is your plan to just be online? Are you, do you have any sort of model or any sort of ideas for how you might want to move these things?
Yeah, I think that right now the marketing effort is to just go online. So it's an online store, but while that's up, you're just going through the streets, and I think you want to get the word out. And so unfortunately you start a brand, and the reality of it is part of the investment I make, I could be giving up to half the boards away for promotional purposes. And
you ran into that with Restless.
Yeah, with our clothing brand, like for example, we were really heavy in mixed martial arts and stuff like that, and so we decided that one way we could get our stuff out in front of people was to sponsor a team. And so we stepped in, we sponsored a team. Well, at one point, that team had 21 fighters. And so when you're talking 21 shirts, 21 pairs of shorts, 21 rash guards, 21, whatever. I mean, we burned, thousands of dollars on that. And as a small little company with, relatively little money coming in, that was a big buy for us. And, we were able to get some street cred and get a little bit established in the community there. But I mean, was it worth it? I don't know, and it certainly wasn't as good as selling all that gear. And so it is a balance, because sponsorship and stuff like that isn't it like maybe an obvious direction, find yourself a young skater and put them on a Goodside board, start having them do some work like that, is a good way to handle it. But don't sponsor a skate team. That would be my advice.
The team would be maybe down the line. And I think our thought about it is, if you look at some of the other brands, they're really about, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they're really about promoting just a really robust, awesome array of professional skateboarders. And then you have others that are more about promoting subculture and just getting people to skate. And that's more where we fall in right now, is just promoting it, love for the subculture, love for skateboarding,
and get people involved in the sport.
Yeah, getting people involved in the sport, and then and then just getting decks and T-shirts into people, I guess, that you would consider influencers that are out there in the parks, and I've been able to do that, and I've met some really cool skateboarders. There's one named Christian Farrington who does these amazing skateboard videos. And
if you follow Goodside on Instagram, you can see some of these things. Yeah, they're really cool. Production quality is great, and he's producing some really cool videos. Yeah,
and then some other kids that will send me some things, and I'll tell them, hey, you know what? I'll give you a Goodside board or a T-shirt, and let me know how these things work. And
are you getting good feedback?
Yeah. And I'm getting good feedback. And I've even gone to some of the bigger stores, knowing that, my model wouldn't be to try to go get into like a Zoomies or something like that. They're a big national brand, but there's cool dudes in there that you can just go talk to that will say, hey, yeah, I'd love to.
They're working there because they love it.
Yeah, they love it. They're hooked into it.
It's not their love for retail; it's their love for skate.
Yeah, and so they'll say, "Oh, hey, you know what? I know somebody up somewhere that owns a skate shop that really deals with not the kind of boards we carry here. They're looking for local people, and so it's just kind of that networking thing.
Yeah.
Of finding people.
And Mike mentioned a skate shop in Pocatello. We actually ought to hit him up and see
if he can
take one or two. I knew him back in the day.
He's actually a DJ. Plays at
really?
He does funny. A vinyl night once a month at the First Nash.
Oh, how funny! Yeah, no, his office was right across the street from my old office, so we used to run into each other every now and then. Yeah. And so, so it'd be cool to hit him up, see if we can get him into a shop. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think the only real value of being in the shop is maybe the attention you get from people looking at it. I suspect a lot of people still go online to buy. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I don't know, what happens in the skate world specifically, but that would be my assumption.
Yeah. And and Instagram, all these social outlets have made it so much easier for small businesses to market.
Well, yeah, I mean really,
it's incredible.
You can play on a level that's, more or less pro. You're on the same stage, same marketing channels, same everything as the big guys.
Yeah. So, side step here. Your day job is social marketing your kind of thing, or is that what you specialize in? I think I heard something about recording a video today. Or
it's one of the several things that we do where we'll shoot video, and sometimes it's meant for television or Instagram, or a lot of times it used to be, hey, we're going to shoot a television commercial, and now we're going to shoot a video
for Facebook.
Yeah, and 30-second pre-roll to sit in front of a YouTube video.
Maybe going on, maybe pre-roll. It might be a 1-minute Instagram. and we'll do a full blown television shoot, and then we chop it down and make it work for those different mediums. And so, yeah, there's so many outlets now that are really cool to be able to use, and yeah, we're using them.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it is really cool, and I do encourage you to follow Chris's or Goodside on Instagram. They have a really fun channel. And what's the name of the kid that shoots those videos? He ought to get a little love too.
Yeah, his name's Christian Farrington.
Yeah, his stuff is really cool. I actually, I think he thought I was pissed at him. I was giving him some grief on Instagram.
I remember that. That's awesome.
What'd you do?
Well, Chris had posted this video that this guy had put up, and and it's this cool little video. This guy skateboarding around and stuff like that. And I just, being a wise ass, put something on there about, oh well, it's good and all, but it'd be better with a little more product placement. Let's show the good side stuff a little more. I was trying to be complimentary to the brand, saying, oh, it's great, but let's see more good side. And but he was like, oh really, what do you think, how could I possibly do this better? I'd let like he was looking for feedback from me, and I was like, well dude, I was just joking. I was like, it's a great video. But anyway, so we had a couple rounds of back and forth, but I've noticed he's doing more product facing in the videos.
Yeah, he is, and it's been such a cool thing. And then I've had even some other contacts. There's a really talented kid named Hayden Effler that he sends me some pictures that he does and some video clips, and it's just so cool to be able to have those. So you're not relying on just hey, showing me do something, because you really want to show people having fun and embracing the sport.
Yeah, well, and if that's sort of Goodside's, I mean, maybe it's not the mission, but sort of, one of the things you're hoping to accomplish is introduce people to the sport, or, encourage that love of the sport, to start building that community around Goodside.
Mm-hmm. How is the community in Salt Lake, by the way? Cool. Is it a decent community, or I'm sure that they're probably not pro skateboarding in Salt Lake.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer, because they're just all over the place. You have these really good skates. You see the parks
popping up, and so that means that they're, at least somewhat supportive of it, or they just don't want you out in Walmart parking lot,
Yeah, well, you can definitely, Salt Lake's a big enough city. You can find pockets of these guys. Like I said, with the graffiti culture, you and I have worked in live music around here. That's sort of a subculture too.
You also have the snowboarding culture here, because you have so many ski parks and snow parks up here that I'm sure they go hand in hand.
I was thinking actually about that, because since we are in Utah, I guess that it's not that easy to skate in winter. Maybe you are thinking about at some point expanding the brand, also design some snowboards, because that really will boost the brand here in the in Utah. I know that you do this for the culture, skateboarding culture, but I guess that those guys, the skateboarder, they do snowboarding winter here, right?
They probably do.
Yeah, they do. And there's a lot of shops that they skateboards are huge during the warm season, and as soon as it gets cold,
switch right over snowboarding.
Yeah, they're selling snowboards, and so there's a lot of good and talented people here in Salt Lake and down in Utah County too. There's a big scene down there, and it's interesting. I had a guy that lives 2 houses down from me, and I told him about it, and we went out skating one night, and I couldn't believe the stuff this guy was doing. And I'm like, dude, Gavin, I knew you skated, but I had no idea,
what the heck, man, that you're holding back on me.
You were this awesome, and then apparently a bunch of the other kids in the neighborhood were like that too. So it's
and even here in our own backyard, and actually I should be more specific. We're recording at Thomas Arts right now, trying to accommodate Chris, but here, isn't there somebody here that was a professional skater or something?
Yeah, Ashley.
Yeah,
we have Ashley, who was sponsored.
Yeah, she was like a legit sponsored rider, and so it's funny, where these people are. They're not at the skate park all day, but she's here.
And it blows people's mind, because if you see Ashley, she is such a professional account director, and she's so good with people. She's nice. She's
hardly gnarly at all.
Yeah, she on the outside, she buttoned up, current with, dress and everything, just the whole deal. And people find out she was a skateboarder. Oh, she still skates. She was sponsored.
Well, and did I see?
It's awesome.
Not to get off too in the weeds with Ashley talk, but did I see on a recent video on Instagram or something? Did she do something for you guys too?
Yeah, she was kind enough to let me use one of her clips. I gave her a deck to try out, and she did some cool things at the skate park, and so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. Have you had any, surprising people following you or liking you on social media? Any pro guys that you're aware of or anything?
I hit him up
yet?
last night. Just saying.
Besides Mike?
Yeah, Mike. That was no. Well, had a lot of skate shops, and I haven't had a lot of skaters. But nobody like a Chris Cole or a Tony Hawk or
where we at, guys? Come on, Chris Cole, Tony Hawk, come on.
Yeah, I'd totally send them a free signed deck if they followed me.
We'd settle for a like right
You
now.
can't use it though because it's signed. It's got to be wall art.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's art. No, it's funny because on some of the posts that we've done where I took a picture of the deck I bought and I put it on the Eggs account and in a couple other places. We've actually gotten a couple, for me, it's a big deal when we get a verified, somebody that was a verified person, but we've had a couple, there's a UFC fighter. There's a couple other guys that saw the picture of Chris's. I get way more traffic on Chris's stuff than I do on ours. And so we actually got a couple cool ones. We got this UFC guy. We got a lot of skate shops and skaters and stuff like that like on it. And so I know there's a market for it. It's just, sticking it out in front of people. It's really cool.
Well, I think we're getting to be about that time.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to cover that we missed or?
No, I think we were pretty, I can't think of really anything.
Well, I guess.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, let me just ask this last one, and this is another general purpose question. But okay, so we talked a little bit about the short-term strategy of how do you get this into shops, or are you going to sell online, that sort of stuff. Have you put any thought to sort of long-term? Borja was asking about snowboarding, but I mean, have you thought about what the future of the brand is, or are we still sort of early enough in the process that we haven't really thought that far out yet?
I think it's just kind of in its infancy. And so I haven't thought too far out, but I think what's key is to be open about something like that. When you start a business venture, I think, you want to be focused, but you also want to be able to go in some different directions. Cause I look at where I thought I was going to be in college. I thought I was going to be an illustration major, and I was mostly going to do portraiture. And I realized that wasn't quite my thing, and accepting my limitations became a very powerful thing for me because it allowed me to start focusing on the things that I could actually do. And I realized I was even more passionate about those things. And so, yeah, I think you just keep an open mind. And the other thing, I think you're going to have setbacks. We'll have setbacks. Everybody does. I kind of like to look at things as, is this really a tragedy? Is this tragic, or is this just kind of a good story? For an example, I went to a job interview, and I was told, hey, being an artist is more than growing a damn ponytail. and at the time I was pretty upset about that. I'm like,
did you have a ponytail at the time?
I did have a ponytail at the time, and I was harshly judged for it. This guy was a pretty buttoned up dude, and he wasn't having it. And so I thought, it really kind of knocked me down a few notches, but then I'm like, you know what? I don't love that kind of stuff. Just, I have a wall of things, of comments that were made like that I just think are hilarious now.
I mean, you got to let it roll off your shoulder. You just
yeah. And we talked about that on some previous shows. Actually, the last show with DJ Faze, we talked a little bit about being able to take critique. and how important it is to let somebody, give you their version of what you've produced, or the way you present
sometimes
yourself.
they're not it's not coming across as critique. They're just full on saying, screw you.
Yeah. And that for sure
Yeah.
happens, but you've got to be able to sort of hear what other people are saying and then do with it what needs done.
And then analyze it and figure it out for yourself.
Chris immediately cut off his ponytail and doubled down on study.
That's right.
He's like, no, I did.
Became, a fine illustrator or whatever they were hiring for. But I think, again, that's good advice, though, being able to sort of take that advice and let it roll off if it needs to roll off, or improve if it needs to improve. Because I think a lot of times people hear critique and they think that, oh, well, this guy's just being a dick or whatever. They're not actually trying to make me better.
Well, I get it all the time with drunk people, like, oh, this song sucks, da, da, da. And then I sit back and think, like, yeah, it does. And it's like you got to have to kind of like pick and choose your battles and figure out what you want to represent and what you want to get out of it.
Yeah.
So,
that's the thing. I mean, drunk people are like kids that way, right?
Well, they're no filter.
Yeah, no filter.
None.
They see it as they see it, and then they're happy to tell you about it.
Yep.
And so,
Yeah, I love what I had a design professor first week said something kind of similar to that, where he said, you're going to go through this education, you're going to hear from me, you're going to hear from students, you're going to have a million critiques. And he said, I want you to carry around 2 markers. And he's like, red marker, black marker. And he said, the stuff that you feel are really, really going to be advantageous to you, that's going to help you, he goes, you underline that stuff in your mind or wherever with that red marker, and the stuff that you get that isn't, it just doesn't ring to you, you just take that black marker and you cross it off. He says, be open to things, but he's like, that's kind of how it works, because ultimately you got to find your own way. And there's, but along the way, take the help that's there.
yeah. Well, and I feel like that is a super strong note, maybe among the best notes to go out on.
Perfect.
And so let's call this thing a wrap. So to check out Chris Shill's Goodside Skateboard Company, check it out at goodsideskateboards.com, or on Instagram. Check out all the cool videos and stuff at Goodside Skateboards.
You can check out me at djontic.com. That's ONTIC. And all my social links are there, and you can book me there as well.
Yep. And then me, Ryan Rogar, R2 Media Group in Salt Lake City in Spain is R2MG.com, at R2MG on Twitter, or at R2 Media Group on Instagram. And the show, you catch all the latest from Eggs at eggscast.com and at Eggs Show on Twitter and Instagram. And with that, we're out of here.
All right.
So thanks so much, Chris, and best of luck with Goodside. Super stoked to see what happens.
Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you taking this time. I mean, we recorded at the agency, so he's still here. He hasn't got to go home yet.
Okay, it was a thrill to be on the show with you
But
guys.
at least tell
Thank
me you don't have to go back to work.
I don't have to go back to work.
Good. You never know. In agency life, he could just be starting his night. So anyway, with that, have a great week, and we'll see everyone next time.
All right.
Bye.
Borja, anything?
That's all. I've learned a lot, so I'm pretty happy with this.
And I will say, admittedly, we've been a little remiss on the Borja factor the last couple
We'll get it
weeks.
on. I'm sorry.
We might have to do a
I'm-
bonus show or something.
I mean, I know that you are sort of on budget right now, and you can afford
We can't afford
my
your high fees.
session, so don't worry.
Well, we've been giving
pay
him
him
short
per
shrift
word,
lately. Yeah.
In Starbucks water, you pay me in Starbucks water.
It's the best water, though. It really is good. All right. Take care, everybody. Leaving for reals this time.
All right. Bye.